I just looked at myself and I feel like today's look is giving Morticia Adams. So bear with me as I'm in my all black. My hair is usually such a bright blonde, but as I've gotten older, it's turned much more this brown color, and so I'm still not used to being like a brunette. Who is she? Anyway, let's get into our books. If you're new to the channel, we are doing the HRCYED challenge, and basically this is the hardest reading challenge you'll ever do. It is a bingo board style challenge where you have to complete mini challenges for each square to mark it on the bingo board. This is what my board looks like right now. We are kind of far into it, but not nearly far enough. So we have until June 31st. There's not a 31st of June. We have until June 30th to complete the challenge in 2026. So I am just aggressively reading as many books as I can to complete this challenge in 1 year, and I am having a lot of fun. In my weekly updates, we talk about the books I have read, and then we put them on the bingo board, and we do get to put each book into 2 spots on the board. Without further ado, let's get into book number 1. We started off with Warbreaker by Brandon Sanderson. Y'all know I've been on a Brandon Sanderson kick this summer and fall, and this is another book in the Cosmere. So it is not related to the Stormlight Archive, which I have been in the midst of. This is a standalone. It is about 2 kingdoms who have semi-high tensions going between them, and we are focusing on 2 sisters. So first we have Vivenna. She is the older sister, and she has been raised to basically go and be married off to this other kingdom as a bit of a peace treaty and reminder of good blood and good faith between the kingdoms. Then we have the younger sister. Her name is Ciri, and Ciri has a little bit more passion and spunk to her. She's very spontaneous, she's outgoing, she's loud, she's opinionated, and she is raised as the youngest, so she doesn't really have a specific role she needs to fill in the family. But very last minute, we have a little switcheroo. Ciri is sent to be the bride for the God King, and Vivenna is at home, but she decides not to stay. She decides to go and rescue her sister. Ciri has not been raised to handle everything that is happening in the God King's kingdom, and so Vivenna goes on this voyage to go and rescue her. This story really centers on one sister inside the kingdom who is the God King's wife and her attempt to break free and find her own place and seek justice. And you're also following Vivenna, who is outside the palace. She's on the outskirts, dealing with a lot of very different personalities than those that Ciri's interacting with. So you get a very well-rounded glimpse at this world, at different members in the hierarchy of the world and of power. So while the sisters are doing their thing, we're also following another character who is a returned god and prophet of sorts, and yet he denies his deity. So Lightsong is his name, and he is kind of this reluctant hero. He doesn't really believe that he has any power. He kind of thinks he's accidentally ended up where he is, and he's just reveling in the frivolity of his life and the power that he has. So he doesn't really take things very seriously. He's very entertaining to read. As the story progresses, he realizes he might need to get a little bit more involved and may or may not interact with one or more of our characters. This is a very fun book. This is a great standalone novel. If you're looking to get into his world, this is actually a really fun one to start with. And it's not a series. You can read it one and done and really enjoy it and understand a little bit about the Cosmere, the gods that are in the Cosmere, and some of just the stylized writing of Brandon Sanderson. This book centers on a few different questions, the first of which being, where do freedom and obligation intersect? We're also focusing on, how do you decide who to trust? And is trust earned, or is it just part of power, and where do trust and power align, and all sorts of questions like that. And then in the same vein, how do you wield the power you do have, regardless of if that power is much or little? I rated this book 5 whole stars. I really, really enjoyed it, and we obviously put it on the board. So the first spot we put it in is the hundreds category, and this is in the 500 spot. I've been trying to save this spot because I know that I'm going to have a lot of books in the 500 page range, and yet this was the hardest book for me to place on the board. This is the first time that I wasn't confident I could get this book in 2 whole spots rather than just 1 off. And the other spot I put this is genre, and it's fantasy, which was another spot I was hoping to save for later on in the challenge. But in order to get 2 spots for this book, those were the only places I could put it. And trust me, I looked in every spot possible to see if I could get it in more of a niche location, but I couldn't. Those are the 2 spots we put this in, and this is what the board looks like now after reading Warbreaker. Next, we have You Killed Me First. We went from fantasy to thriller, and this is a book that is both on my November TBR and my 10 before the end, so I knew I needed to get to this quickly, and I did. This book follows 3 suburban women, so we are tracking their lives. Each of these women present as if they are perfect. So they have the perfect house, they look to have the perfect marriage, they have all these different things that from the outside in looks beautiful, and yet there are a lot of pretty dark secrets that each of them is holding, and they're all reluctant friends with each other. They don't really like each other, but they do spend a lot of time together. So you're watching them not only from their point of view as they're interacting with the other 2, but each of the others' point of view. So you're getting a lot of opinions about each character from themselves and then from the other 2 as well. The opening scene in this book is mostly why I read the whole thing. It is absolutely thrilling. It is one of the women, we don't know who, is trapped inside a bonfire or house fire of sorts, and she is being murdered, and her murderer is letting her know that this is intentional and they will not be saving her. And you're just like, what is happening? It's actually crazy. So then you go back in time, get to know these characters so you can figure out which of these women was the woman who was in the campfire at the very beginning. So this is a very interesting book. None of the characters are overly likable, but the book itself is very engaging. So it's a fast read and it's really intriguing to me. I really enjoyed this read, and I won't give anything away, but I really liked how everything tied up in the end. Sometimes thrillers feel a little bit disappointing to me or super predictable, and there were definitely predictable things about this book, but I felt like the author did a really good job at just tying up all the loose ends and really closing it out. And all the way through the last sentence of the book, I was very engaged and enjoyed myself. I rated this 4.75 stars. I don't know why it wasn't a 5-star read for me. It was close. I think especially the ending bumped it up a little bit more for me because it was sitting at about 4.25, 4.5, but I really liked how the author finished it, so I put it at a 4.75, but it's not quite a 5-star for me. This book asks a lot of questions about identity. How much of our identity is built on what we show others and what we keep hidden. It also talks a lot about victimhood, and if victimhood is just a mindset or if it's something darker and deeper that can impact who you are, the choices you make, and the conversations you've had. Lastly, it asks a lot of questions about what is the price of perfection in a world that is full of flaws and evil and harm. We first put this in the TBR Clean Sweep. I am doing everything I possibly, did I say sleep? Sweep. Clean sweep. I am doing everything I possibly can to read all 6 books on my monthly TBR. One of the categories on HRCYED is to read all 6 books in the month, and so that is what I am trying to do in November. I'm very excited for every book on the TBR, and this is the first one done, so at least we're getting somewhere. We first put this in the TBR for the first book read, and then we also put this in the elemental category for fire because look at the cover. It's obvious. How could I not? That is where we put these books. This is what the board looks like now. And let's go to the 3rd book I read this week. It's kind of funny that I picked this book because I actually decided against putting it on my TBR, even though I did pick it, but something about me not putting it on the TBR made me want to read it more. I kind of realized how excited I was for it as I was talking about it in that video. I read The Will of the Many by James Islington. I thought it was Islington, but someone told me I was wrong, and great, I love to be educated. So James Islington, this was a 5-star book for me. I had to tell you the rating before I even got into what it's about. This is a fantasy novel. So in this world, there is the hierarchy, and there are 3 sections of the hierarchies. There's governance, there's religion, and there is military. And so our character is not currently part of the hierarchy. He is an orphan. He is pretty much the bottom of the barrel when it comes to this world. His name is Vis. And he gets adopted by a man who is quite high up in the military. This world is based on will, so everybody has will for themselves, but if you are at the bottom, you have to cede part of your will to the rank above you, and so on and so forth. So the more will you have, the stronger you are, and it's very much like a really tiny slope. So the people at the very top who have the most will, there's very few of them. And then as you get down to the bottom layer is where the majority of people lie. Vis gets adopted. He basically is sent to attend this very prestigious boarding school, and his new father wants him to be a spy for him. So he goes in very much on the lookout for information, and every character in this book is so morally gray, and I love it. I don't typically love morally gray characters, but I like that I don't want to root for anybody, but I do want to root for Vis. And so it's really interesting to read a world in where it's not so clearly like good versus evil. We have good mixed with evil on this side, and we have good mixed with evil on this side, and our characters kind of standing in the middle. And it's very interesting to read a book where neither side is perfect, and there's so much nuance to it, and I love me a bit of nuance, and this book satisfied that preference so well. The sequel for this book comes out this week, and I'm very, very excited about it. It'll actually be out by the time I post this video, so The Strength of the Few is about to emerge into the world, and I'm very, very excited to read it. I'm excited to see where we go next, because we left off on a bit of a cliffhanger. There's a whole expansive world now that we get to explore after the end of this book, so I really recommend reading this. And let's get into some of the questions that this book highlights. First, it asks, if you have the chance to fix a broken world, do you do it from within, or do you burn it down and start over? It asks, what does strength mean if it requires depending on other people's weakness? And lastly, how far would you go to make your pain meaningful? This book is just so interesting, and I really want y'all to read it, and then I want you to read the sequel with me so that we can talk about it together and discuss some of just the intrigue that I'm sure is coming our way. I am dying to get my hands on the sequel. Now that I've rambled about the book for long enough, let's get into where we put it on the HRCYED board. I need to go to bed. Y'all, I need a nap. Okay, moving on. First, we put this in the around the world category. This went in for Australia because James Islington is an Australian author, and even though the world is not set in Australia and the book is not set in Australia, the author is based from there, so we're counting it. And then second, we put this in the last 10 years category for 2023. Very, very excited about this book and excited to have it in 2 more spots. So this is what the board looks like now with all of those updates made. Let's get into our favorite rankings. So for the week, my favorite book that I read was The Will of the Many. Really, really enjoyed this. Not sure if I said that enough in this video. Not sure if you caught on, but this is going in spot number 4 between Project Hail Mary and My Friends. And then I'm doing a bonus book for this week. As you know, I have weeks where I don't post a weekly update. Instead, I put in the TBR. So I have a few bonus slots to put in extra books if I really like them. And so I am using one of my bonus spots, and this is for Warbreaker. And I am putting this in spot number 7 between The Giver of Stars and The Book of Doors. I really enjoyed both of these books. I felt like both of them deserved a spot. I was close to putting all 3 of these books on the TBR, but I really want to save some of my bonus spots for my TBR coming up because I have a feeling I'm really going to like the books that I'm reading this month. So I decided to save some, but I did need to use one bonus spot for Warbreaker because it was just that good. At this point, we've read 42 books for the HRCYED challenge so far. I don't even know how much time we have left. I think we have 7.5 months left in this challenge. So that's crazy. On one hand, I feel really good about it because looking at the spots left, I have filled a lot of the spots already, but I know that not all the books I read moving forward are going to be able to fill 2 spots each just because there aren't as many spots available and it's going to be trickier to get them in. I'm starting to get a little bit nervous that some of the books I read either will only be able to fill 1 spot or they might not be able to fill spots at all. And I'm gonna have to really decide if I'm willing to read a book if it doesn't fit into HRCYED because I'm scared that I'm not gonna finish this. I'm such an ambitious person. Like I will choose to read and not sleep for a week in June if I need to, like just for the sake of finishing a challenge. So I feel like I'm gonna get it done, but I think it looks deceptively easy is what I'm trying to say. Like there are still so many books I need to read for this challenge. If you enjoyed me and if you enjoyed going on this journey with me, I would love it if you would subscribe and follow along on the journey. We have read a lot of books, we're going to read more, but for now, keep resting, keep breathing, and I will see you soon.